You can manifest your heart's desires. And it all starts by being familiar, being aware, taking time to reflect on what your thoughts are. Are they predominantly about what you want, or are they predominantly about what you don't have? Hey everyone, this is Beth McGill, and this is the first recording of Manifesting Your Heart's Desires, previously known as Manifesting Monday. So again, Beth McGill here. I'm so excited to be here today, and we're going to talk about manifesting, and we're going to be talking about specifically the law of attraction. Now, I know that phrase is very highly used. And what I'm finding is a lot of people, even though they've heard the law of attraction, they really have no idea what it is. They've simply heard it. It's been bantered around. A lot of people have heard about the movie The Secret. A lot of people have watched The Secret and still don't understand the law of attraction. And so I want to talk about that a little bit and share some of my experience so that you get like my background and how I was able to put a few things together and to be able to understand the law of attraction, and then to be able to teach it in a way that leads you to getting to a place of being able to manifest your heart's desires. Okay, so the law of attraction. I probably, like you, watched The Secret. I watched it for the first time back in 2010. And it was really introduced through a business. And I thought, like most of you, this is interesting, but I don't know if I really believe it. Right? That's how I felt. I thought maybe this is really good for other people, but it certainly wasn't it wasn't an idea or a belief or a concept that I had been brought up with. So it really went against the grain of how I was brought up, because I was brought up to think you had to go to school, you had to get a good education, you had to work really hard, and maybe even 2 or 3 jobs, right? That's the way I was brought up. And so the idea that you can simply think about what you want and it's going to pop into your life was really foreign to me. And so the movie The Secret was my first introduction, but honestly, it didn't really resonate with me for a while. But I did remember a gentleman named Bob Proctor from that movie. And a few years later, I started my spiritual journey, and I had an opportunity to see him in person. And I had been listening to his CDs and his videos for quite a while. And so I went to see Bob Proctor. And at that live event, I went to a couple of them while he was still alive. At that live event, very quickly, I was fascinated. I was fascinated not by what he just said about the law of attraction, but what he said was the basis of the law of attraction, which was the law of vibration. And that fascinated me. I had never really heard about energy, vibration, frequency, and how that came into play with the law of attraction. And so I started listening to Bob Proctor. I started listening to others like Mary Morrissey, Peggy McCall, and I just wanted to learn as much as I could about this concept, because I wanted to learn so that I could apply it. I didn't want to have the information for information's sake. Like, I want to learn it, I want to understand it, and I want to be able to apply it into my life. And so by listening to Bob and others, I started to understand it at a deeper level over and over and over. And finally, the next year, I went to the Bob Proctor live event again, and I was sitting in there in this large audience, and I finally realized that I get it. Like at a cellular level, I understand this stuff, and I know that I can apply it to my life. I had this knowing that I wasn't sure where this information was going to take me, but within 6 months, I had started my business. I knew that I had to take this information out in the way that I could do it as an educator, as a teacher with years of experience under my belt, that I could relay this information to people in a way that was understandable. So that became my life's calling. And it has, developed over the years, but really started with that idea of the law of attraction. And the law of attraction simply means, in my terms, that in most terms, that you get what you think about, right? You get what you think about. And when I share that with people, because a lot of times people say, oh yeah, I know about this law of attraction, but I don't know what it means. And I tell them it simply means you get what you think about. And most people are really almost, I want to say dumbfounded, like it's that easy. But there's a couple of things where people get blocked. And that is, number one, they're not sure. They don't know what they're thinking about. Like they don't know the thoughts in their head, and they don't know that they have the power to change those thoughts in their head. And the other thing is that I find is that people don't think that they're worthy of having and manifesting their desires, right? They're kind of back like where I was, like, no, you can't just think about it and receive it. You must work really hard. And so those are the two main reasons I think people have this block about understanding and receiving the law of attraction and everything that we can learn about it. And so I studied a lot. And recently, I've been taking people through my 129-day journaling challenge. And so many of these first quotes are about you get what you think about. And so I want to share those with you today, because I think that they're very powerful, and they're why I included them in my journal. Because what happened to me is I was listening to Bob, but I wanted to have a broader perspective of this idea, this concept. I didn't want to listen to just one person. So at the time I was listening to a podcast by Brian Scott, and his podcast is called The Reality Revolution. And his podcast is amazing. But what he does is he reads a lot of books. He interviews some people, but he also reads a lot of books or chapters of books on his podcast. And he has an amazing voice. So it's fun to listen to Brian Scott. I listened to these books that he was reading, and they were mostly from metaphysical teachers from around the 1900s. And I was listening to people that were speaking like Neville Goddard in 1908, 1910. There was a whole era of Neville Goddard in speeches and books, and Florence Scovel Shinn from 1925. Beautiful book called The Game of Life and How to Play It. So I was tapping into all of these beautiful souls and all of these metaphysical teachers that were saying the exact same thing. Now, back in the day, they didn't call it the law of attraction. You simply got what you thought about. It didn't even have a name. There's no mention of the law of attraction in their books, which I think is fascinating. And I was also reading The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. He doesn't mention the law of attraction, but that's what he's talking about. And I think his book came out in maybe 1910. And of course, there's Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, right? Probably many of you have read that. But specifically today, I want to take you through these quotes that were instrumental, and also to prove that many people were saying the same thing, right? And it's not just that you get what you think about, it's understanding the vibration, that part that Bob Proctor brought out, the law of vibration. So as I was listening to all of these and reading all these metaphysical books and learning what spiritual people had to say about law of attraction, even though they didn't call it that most of the time, but I was also studying, thank goodness I was introduced to Dr. Joe Dispenza, and reading and listening about what the scientists were saying about quantum physics. And when you take quantum physics and you take the law of attraction and you see that they're all saying the same thing, you get what you think about, and then quantum physics proves it. It really is this beautiful melting pot of wonderful ideas. So I want to share with you some quotes so that you can get a broader perspective of what the law of attraction is. You get what you think about, but it's also what are the thoughts, what are the feelings that are invoking that inspiration to take action, which gives you your results. All right, so I'm going to just talk a little bit about these, but mostly, again, want to give you some great resources too. So Wallace D. Wattles, in his book, The Science of Getting Rich, says, to think what you want to think is to think truth, regardless of all appearances. Now, I love that quote because he gives an example of you can be thinking health, even though you're sick. You can be thinking wealth and abundance, even though there is no evidence of it. You can still think that way. And he's talking about how the whole reason you want to do this is because you can attract the wellness. You can attract the abundance by your thoughts. And then we have Wayne Dyer, who wrote, thought is creative action. It is neither good nor bad. However, the thoughts that you dwell on determine what you will possess or not possess. What you think about is what you become. Again, that's Wayne Dyer from Manifest Your Destiny, another amazing book that I've read many times. And this is a quote by U.S. Anderson, and he writes, nothing is impossible to the mind. All its guidance and power is available to you. When you fully realize thought causes all, you will know that there will never be any limits that you yourself do not impose. That's amazing, right? We limit ourselves by limiting our thoughts. That's why it's so important and why I teach it's valuable. And this is where you need to start, is to become aware of what you are thinking about. And of course, here's Bob Proctor. Attitude is the foundation of all success. Your attitude toward the world and everything in it will determine the world's attitude toward you. That may be difficult to grasp or accept at times. Nevertheless, it is true. It is a law. By maintaining control over the way you think, feel, and act, you cause good things to happen in your life. You do, in fact, literally magnetize yourself to good. Again, that is Bob Proctor. And he's talking about the law of vibration, right? Which is the primary law. He says primary to the law of attraction is that law of vibration, that you have to understand that whatever your thought is, because thought is vibration, that vibration that you're sending out to the universe is what you're going to get back. You are the master of your destiny. You can influence, direct, and control your environment. You can make it what you want it to be. You can manifest your heart's desires. And it all starts by being familiar, being aware, taking time to reflect on what your thoughts are. Are they predominantly about what you want? Or are they predominantly about what you don't have? Are they predominantly mostly positive, or are you mostly negative? Blaming the environment, blaming the economy, blaming education, blaming everyone else. But the truth is, it all starts with you. So thank you for listening. And I challenge you to be thinking about your thoughts, knowing and be open to the idea that your thoughts create your reality. And if any of these quotes were of interest to you, there are many more in my journal, which you can get on Amazon. It's called Allow Life to Happen and Receive Everything You Desire. And I'm also running a Facebook challenge, 129-day journaling challenge in my Facebook group, which is called High Energy Manifester. You can join it anytime. So thank you so much. And I will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.